Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We are having a call to celebrate June as LGBTQIA plus Pride Month. My name is Amanda Woodson. I am your host for this evening. I am the Amputee Coalition's Government Relations Specialist, and I'm joined tonight by guest speakers and my colleagues, Zachary Hearn, the Government Relations Director, and Dustin Purcell, the Government Relations Manager. To begin, let's make sure our chat box is working. Please introduce yourself in the chat with your name, your state, and your connection to the limb loss and limb difference community. And I will give you all 2 minutes to do that. Thank you all for answering the questions. I will now turn it over to the Government Relations Director, Zachary Hearn.
Hello, everybody. How are you all doing? So this is one of those unique times that, as Dustin had said today and Amanda had concurred, that we can finally kind of get off of the government stuff and we can actually be involved in something that helps a community and that discusses special concerns within a community. And so Dustin had a great point. He said this really should be like, an organization-wide meeting, and I lacking the foresight, I guess, at the time that Amanda had approached us with the idea. I never even thought about that before. I just thought it was a great idea that Amanda had come up with this, and we were very fortunate to have people to hop on and talk about issues that face the community at large. About a month ago, I was speaking to some people who had been counselors at the camp in previous years, and one of the things that they had discussed was the amount of kids that fall into one of the categories within this community. And so not only is this something that I think that we need to think about as far as today, but as far as needs for tomorrow as well. And so I consider us very lucky and fortunate to have the folks on tonight that are knowledgeable in this area. And I welcome you all and look forward to a productive conversation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zach. I will now introduce our first guest speaker for the evening. Sherril Wayland is the Director of Special Initiatives at Sage, directing the National Resource Center on LGBT Aging, NRC, supporting other initiatives such as the Sage HRC Foundation, Long-Term Care Equality Index, Sage Care Training and Credentialing Program, and the Diverse Elders Coalition. Sherril began work with Sage at the local level in 2008, founding the Sage affiliate in St. Louis, Missouri, and became a certified trainer with Sage in 2011. Sherril is a 2008 graduate from the Brown School of Washington University in St. Louis and has over 25 years of professional experience in the fields of education, disability, and LGBT older adult advocacy. We are so thrilled that she is here with us today. I now turn it over to Sherril.
Thank you so much, Amanda and Zachary, for inviting me to this meeting today. And I'll just say off the top, if you want us to come back and do an agency-wide presentation, community-wide presentation, we're more than willing to do that. So just let me know and we'll get you scheduled. So I wanted to start today by really just giving a little overview of Sage, which at Sage, we provide advocacy and services for LGBTQ plus older adults. And as Amanda stated, I'm Sherril Wayland and my pronouns are she and they. Next slide. So Sage is the country's largest and oldest organization dedicated to improving the lives of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer and questioning LGBTQ plus older adults. Our mission is to lead in addressing issues related to LGBTQ plus aging. We oftentimes like to say that we're the voice of LGBTQ aging in aging and disability networks, and we're the aging and disability network within the LGBTQ plus broader community. So we're really excited to be a part of this work today. Our headquarters are in New York City, and through New York and our national programs, we offer a number of services, including the lead agency for the National Resource Center on LGBTQ plus aging. We opened the first LGBTQ plus senior center. We have partnerships with other LGBTQ plus organizations and aging and disability organizations across the country. Next slide. One of the main programs that I oversee through Sage is our National Resource Center on LGBTQ plus aging. And I'll just pause real quick. Sage recently adopted LGBTQ plus. We had been using LGBT for a number of years, and we didn't adopt LGBTQ plus until a majority of the older adults that we serve started to adopt that language for themselves. And so we're still transitioning. And so you may see LGBT and LGBTQ throughout the presentation tonight. So part of the main programs that we offer through the Resource Center are programs that provide ongoing and sustainable resource development, technical assistance, education, and training that supports aging and disability networks and providing culturally competent services to LGBTQ plus older adults and their caregivers. I'd also like to state that I've worked for a number of years with the Amputee Coalition, and we had several of the coalition staff that went through some of our cultural competency training probably 5 years ago. So we have been working with the Amputee Coalition for a number of years now. Next slide. The older adult population that identifies as LGBTQ is growing, just as the general aging population. In 2015, we estimated approximately 3 million LGBTQ plus older adults age 55 plus. By 2030, we estimate that this number is going to grow to approximately 5 million. So this is a growing segment of our population. And we also know that a number of folks who experience limb loss and limb difference also identify as LGBTQ, both youth, middle age, and older adults. So it's really important that we also center these relationships and conversations that we're having here tonight. Next slide. Some of the general facts and understandings that we have around LGBTQ plus older adults include that many of our older adults experience shrinking social networks. And I'm open to having some community conversation here in the chat. Does anybody know why we might experience shrinking social networks? Feel free to type in an answer if you know. Or raise your hand and answer, that's great too. I saw Rex had their hand raised.
Well, as we get older, many of our friends move away. And as many of us saw back during the 80s and early 90s, we lose a lot of friends to death. And as we get older, we face that again.
Exactly. And I couldn't have said it better, Rex. So thank you for that. Yeah, we know that, as we age, our friendships, may not be, our friendship circles may not be as strong as they once were. We oftentimes refer to having very thin social networks as we age. And excuse me, I got a tickle in my throat. We oftentimes also see LGBTQ plus older adults relying on same age peers for support. So as 2 people, 3 people start to age at the same time, maybe start to experience similar health concerns, that network can continue to shrink and become fragile. So it's really important that we start to think about, how do we strengthen these social networks? We also know that many LGBTQ plus older adults have experienced discrimination in housing and accessing housing that's safe, affordable, and LGBTQ plus inclusive. And then there's that ongoing fear of disclosure. For anyone that identifies as LGBTQ plus, we know that coming out is not a one-time experience. We come out sometimes every day, depending on the environments that we're in, the people that we're meeting, we're oftentimes evaluating, is this a safe space for me to be out? And so that fear of disclosure oftentimes keeps us from seeking supportive services that may be needed as we age. So these are all critical things that we think about. A couple of years ago, we produced a fact sheet on LGBTQ plus aging, and we encourage you to download that fact sheet for more information that you can share with friends, family, or networks that you may be engaged with. And these resources and this PowerPoint, feel free to share it afterwards so that people have links to all the resources. Next slide. I also think it's really important that we center intersectionality anytime we have these discussions. I know from my experience in working in the fields of aging, disability, and now LGBTQ plus aging, that LGBTQ plus older adults are a part of every single community and special interest, population. We're in every community. And so it's really important that we think about intersectionality. And I really appreciate how Kimberly Crenshaw described intersectionality in 2017. Intersectionality is a lens through which you can see where power comes and collides, where it interlocks and intersects. It's not simply that there's a race problem here, a gender problem here, and a class or LGBTQ problem there. Many times that framework erases what happens to people who are subject to all these things. And I would add a disability or ability problem here as well. So how do we take all of the identities that we hold as individuals and see how they intersect and how the power can shift and change depending on the situations that we're in? So that's one of the ways that I really like to think about intersectionality in the work that we do. Next slide. And it's really about diversity, equity, and belonging. We want to feel that we belong in all the communities that we go into, whether it's a service community, a community center, our neighborhoods, our doctor's offices. How are we centered in these communities based on who we are as individuals? Next slide. I now want to shift to some of the resources that we have available that you can use and share with your networks. One of the things that we produced a few years back is called our Inclusive Services for LGBT Older Adults. This is a guide that any program, any service program can use to help evaluate, are we inclusive? What areas do we need to change to better serve LGBTQ plus older adults? In this guide, you'll see keys to LGBTQ inclusion, first impressions. We oftentimes look at a website. Does that website include LGBTQ or sexual orientation and gender identity? If it doesn't, then we may not feel safe and secure in that setting. So those first impressions really mean something to us. We also provide best practices for programs to be LGBTQ plus inclusive. Next slide. One of our other guides that we developed is a guide on strengthening your state and local aging plan. And I would add aging and disability plan, because we also work very closely with aging and disability resource centers across the country. Again, this guide looks at key data and direct links to LGBT inclusive research, assessment, data collection tools, and LGBTQ partner listings. We have sample language around developing inclusive goals and strategies and best practices for LGBTQ inclusive planning and outreach. This can be really useful if an organization is going through strategic planning. It's a way for them to really think about how they're being LGBTQ inclusive. And I like to say, especially during Pride Month, it's more than waving a pride flag. We can wave that pride flag, but if it comes down on July 1st, then are we really being LGBTQ inclusive? Have we done the work to implement policies, practices, and services that are truly LGBTQ inclusive? Next slide. This is one of our more recent guides that we developed over the past year with one of our partner organizations called Forge. And this is a guide on how to be an ally to transgender older adults. I've really been impressed with the reception of this guide, and it's a toolkit that can be used by individuals in the community to help talk about how to be an ally and to gain a better understanding of what it means to identify as a transgender older adult. So again, I encourage you to download this guide. We also have a webinar that's been recorded that helps talk about some of these important issues. Next slide. That's enough about our guides. Now let's talk about some of the programs that are available. These programs are available across the country and they're free. So, please share these, get involved with them if you feel that it's something that would be of interest to you. Sage Connect is a program that matches volunteers with LGBTQ older adults across the country. This program was started really as our response at Sage to the COVID pandemic. We knew that many of our centers and other LGBTQ plus aging programs would be going, really into isolation, just as we did, as a country, and that we would be reliant on Zoom, webinars and phone calls to stay connected. So this program started recruiting volunteers to match with LGBTQ plus older adults. The older adult receives a once a week phone call to check in, see how they're doing, offer companionship and friendship. It's still going strong as we enter 2022, and I don't see it going away anytime soon, if ever. Next slide. And I think I lost some of my slides, but that's okay.
I think so. If you give me one moment, I
Okay.
can pull them back up.
Okay.
I'm just having a bit of technical difficulties. Just 1 second.
Not a problem. That is a good way to get me to be quiet and move on to the next speaker. As we take a brief technical pause, are there any questions so far? If anybody has a question, feel free to type it into the chat box. Okay, very good. Back on track. So our next program is called Sage Sense. Again, this one was also started right as we, saw ourselves going into COVID. This is a program that's designed to provide financial education. It's application based, so it's all done through the computer or a smart tablet. And it's really designed to help people get a better understanding of their finances and the impact on their future financial outlook. A majority of folks that have been engaged in this program, on average, are saving about $650 more a year, and a majority have also reduced their debt by about $600. So, we're seeing great success with this program, and again, it's free and available to anyone that's interested. So we would encourage you to take a look at that program. Next slide. We also have our LGBTQ plus elder hotline. This program started about a year or two before COVID, probably about a year. And prior to COVID, we were seeing about 20 to 30 calls a month. Now we're averaging between 350 and 400 calls a month. So this program has really been an important lifeline to LGBTQ plus older adults. The program is available to, answer questions and to help direct people to resources, and also just be a friendly voice to listen to people's concerns and to provide that sense of security for folks that may be experiencing isolation. Next slide. And I'm answering Donald's question here. Do you see an increase in LGBTQ plus senior housing? So we have the National LGBTQ plus Housing Initiative. This is a program that really is designed to help inform best practices and the development of LGBTQ plus welcoming affordable housing. Through this program, we've actually started 2 senior housing communities in New York. And we're also providing guidance across the country on other housing developments that are underway. We advocate nationally against housing discrimination. We provide training to elder care providers and developers of housing communities. We provide education on housing rights. And we also, again, work with builders across the country to help them envision what it means to be an LGBTQ friendly housing provider. Next slide. Our other new program, this is in partnership with the Human Rights Campaign Foundation. This is another program that I oversee on Sage's side, and it's the Long-Term Care Equality Index. If you're familiar with HRC's Employment Corporate Equality Index, the Municipality Equality Index, and the Healthcare Equality Index, this is the newest index that's been introduced by HRC. It's a growing program that started in 2019. And we're currently getting ready to release our first official survey for retirement communities, assisted living, skilled nursing, affordable housing, and hospice and facility-based hospice communities. This program is designed, again, to not only support raising that rainbow flag, but making sure that that flag is waving every day of the year, and that LGBTQ plus folks can find long-term care communities that are open, supportive, have policies, practices, and service components in place that really support our LGBTQ plus older adults. We're currently working with about 103 communities, and we see this growing year by year as this program really starts to take off across the country. Next slide. Along with that work, we developed a new guide called Finding an LGBTQ Inclusive Long-Term Care Community. We know that in many parts of our country today, you may not have a long-term care community or affordable housing community that identifies as being open and welcoming. But there are things that we can do as self-advocates to go in and really evaluate someplace that we might be looking to move into, or a friend or family member might be looking to move into. And so this guide really helps to explore what those best practices look like from an LGBTQ plus person's perspective. And it gives you a list of questions to consider when you're seeking housing. And it also provides you with information on how you can support long-term care providers in your community to get engaged with the Long-Term Care Equality Index. Next slide. We also have our Sage Care training and credentialing program, and this is a program that we provide training to healthcare and aging providers across the country. At sageusa.care, you'll find a list of all the providers who have gone through our cultural competency training. And we encourage folks, when you're looking for resources in the local community, to see if any of the organizations in your community are listed on the Sage Care website. If not, encourage them to take part in the cultural competency trainings that are available. Next slide. Whew. I'm done. So that brings us to the end of my presentation today, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And if the Q&A is going to be at the end, Amanda, I'm happy to stick around for that as well. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you again for this wonderful presentation or resources. Yes, our Q&A session is at the end of our call. So I will now introduce our next guest speaker. Our next guest speaker is Aaron Burnell. Aaron Burnell is a social worker by trade and by passion, and he is a queer trans man, and he is a National Limb Loss Resource Center information and referral specialist. With over 10 years in the field, Aaron has experience working with multiple populations, including individuals with limb loss or limb difference, individuals experiencing homelessness, survivors of intimate partner violence, and the LGBTQ+ community, specifically transgender youth and students. All of his work focuses on preventing abuse and exploitation of vulnerable populations while empowering individuals and their communities to realize their goals through self-advocacy and self-determination. He has developed clinical training modules, presented his research findings at regional and national conferences, as well as print taught academically, and is certified by AIRS, Alliance for Information and Referral Systems. He lives in Western Pennsylvania with his partner and a gaggle of cats. Outside of the National Loss Resource Center, Aaron is an avid gamer, lover of horror, and collector of mid-century knickknacks.
Hello, and good afternoon. My name is Aaron Burnell, and I am a resource and information specialist here at the National Limb Loss Resource Center here at the Amputee Coalition. First, I would like to thank you for joining us to discuss some of the different ways in which we are available to you. Some of these resources you may already know, but I hope you will learn about at least one new service or resource that we are able to offer. One of the most common ways to get in contact with us is through phone. We can be reached from anywhere in the country with our toll-free number. That number is 888-267-5669, option 1. Again, that's 888-267-5669, option 1. If we are unable to answer your call immediately, please leave us a voicemail as we strive to reach back out to people as promptly as possible. By far, though, the most common way people get in contact with us is through our Ask an Information Specialist form online. From this form, you can ask us questions, request materials, get matched with a peer visitor or support group, as well as join any of our mailing lists. Regardless of what sort of question we receive, we do our absolute best to answer them. However, as we all know, everyone's experience with limb loss or limb difference is unique to themselves. We are happy to share educational information and resources or referrals to other programs or practitioners, but we are not able to answer any specific medical or legal questions or specific questions regarding your prosthesis. We strive to be available from 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As we experience a higher volume of calls with a smaller staff, it is important to remember the Resource Center team is not a call center, nor is it a 211 center. We only have 1 to 2 specialists available at any given time, which is why we ask for your patience and consideration in our getting back in touch with you from either a voicemail or from answering your questions online. The Resource Center is also your one-stop shop for all Amputee Coalition materials. Whether you are a community member or a professional, we can place your order, either for a one-off order for yourself or for a client or patient, or if you are a practitioner or a professional, we can place your bulk orders as well. Community members are always able to order our materials at no cost. Clinicians and hospital partners may also request their materials through us, as well as through the Hospital Partner Program in peer support. Whenever we meet someone for the first time, we always like to offer them a copy of First Step in Your New Journey. Regardless of if you are a community member or a professional, First Step in Your New Journey are always available at no cost. First Step is a book that we publish that is focused on recovery after a limb loss. It includes a bit of a roadmap of people you may meet along the way, including physical therapists, occupational therapists, prosthetists, counselors, and more. It also addresses the different forms recovery can take, including the physical, emotional, as well as social. Your New Journey goes into specific details of the Amputee Coalition's different programs, including peer support, government relations, which includes our lead advocate program, as well as our communications team and the way in which they shape our message out to the community. It also gives you an excellent collection of how to get in touch with us through either phone or email for the entire organization. In Motion is our bi-monthly magazine. It comes out every other month. So for instance, there's a January-February issue, followed by the March-April issue, and so on and so forth. Signing up for the subscription is free and will get you plugged in not only to Amputee Coalition happenings, but also you will be able to see new innovations in technologies and medical interventions relevant to our field and our community. We also are able to profile various members of our community and share their experiences, their successes, as well as their struggles and how they have overcome them. You are also able to view In Motion online through our website, both the current issue and past issues. Other materials include level-specific pamphlets such as Below Knee, Above Knee, Upper Limb, or Caregiver, our insurance and reimbursement guide, and helpful trifolds such as securing a successful outcome with your prosthetist, amputees sharing their secrets to success, managing both secondary and or phantom limb pain, as well as occupational therapy. While we are always available to speak with you, we can also understand that sometimes it can be difficult to talk to someone face to face. Because of this, the Resource Center also strives to be a self-service service. Think of it as the self-checkout at the grocery store. Our website, while undergoing some light construction and spring cleaning at the moment, is completely searchable. You can find educational articles discussing different types of amputations, various types of prosthetic devices, and various types of physical therapy, ranging both from inpatient rehab units to exercises you can do at home. The bulk of our resources are contained within fact sheets. These are resources we in the Resource Center have crafted specifically with you in mind. These are short, easy to read documents with very practical information, such as finding financial assistance for a prosthetic device, how to get vehicle modifications, both the products themselves, as well as potential programs or other means of financial assistance, employment resources, and even what to expect when flying. Any webinar we host, including this one, will be available online so they can always be reviewed for information or shared with others. They are also available for any support groups to use in case you feel like sharing some of this valuable information with everyone in your circle. Additionally, through either the App Store or Google Play, you can put our peer support team in your pocket with a free smartphone app. This helps facilitate peer support and connections among our community. Community Connections is a new program that has been in development through the Resource Center since 2019. In the Resource Center, we have collected thousands of resources ranging from the national level all the way down to the county level. Community Connections is our attempt to share all of these resources with you. Much like your local 211 database, you can search Community Connections by your zip code, as well as by the type of resource that you need. For example, you could search for peer support, including local support groups, centers of independent living, or disability resource centers, assistive technology departments, or your local disability rights advocate. Our community events calendar is a live calendar of nearly all scheduled events associated with the coalition. This includes events we put on, ranging from webinars like these to our advocacy days and national conference. But also, the community events calendar is meant to highlight, you guessed it, community events. This includes anything exciting you may be doing within your community. Is there an adaptive golfing event or an invited speaker? Perhaps some sort of community picnic? We want to know what you're doing. We have been able to load in all of our certified local support groups, but if you're having any other events, please submit them through the community events portal. We will review and format your information in the Resource Center, and then you can consider the 2.1 million folks who are living with limb loss or limb difference invited. Don't worry though, we haven't had that many RSVP for any of our events yet. The Prosthetist Finder is a tool recently acquired by the coalition. So again, please mind the dust of any construction or updates that you may encounter. Like Community Connections, the Prosthetist Finder is a database searchable by zip code. We are not able to make any direct referrals to specific clinicians or practitioners, but we are able to show you a list of certified prosthetists in your area. You can filter this list of certified prosthetists to various. You're also able to filter this list of certified prosthetists with various pieces that may be important to you, such as being bilingual, offering house calls, or being open in the evenings or on the weekend. One of the key tenets of the Amputee Coalition is that no one is alone in going through their limb loss or limb difference journey. The coalition strives to provide assistance in not only the physical recovery, but also the emotional and social recovery. Literature and self-reports show that many folks experience depression or anxiety-like symptoms, but do not receive any sort of mental health services. While not only affecting things like your self-esteem and self-image, literature has shown that high levels of emotional distress negatively impact both rehabilitation goals as well as overall health outcomes. Because of this, the Amputee Coalition is excited to present a couple new tools The Improving Wellbeing Program is a tool originally developed for prosthetists, but it's something that you can use at home on your own as well. It is an online program that helps to assess and address the emotional well-being of patients through the use of a self-assessment tool. This program hopes to change the way that you might be thinking about your situation and help you remember what are some of the strengths and techniques you have used for difficult experiences in the past. Finally, the Improving Wellbeing Program is able to offer individualized resources based on the respondents' answers. We hope that this will help you get the resources that are relevant to your situation and cut through information or advice that doesn't address your specific needs. PALS, or Promoting Amputee Life Skills, is an online program designed specifically for folks who are living with limb loss or limb difference. It is an 8-lesson course that is best used either with a buddy or through a support group, as there are many opportunities to share your answers and what works for you and what doesn't in regards to living well with limb loss or limb difference. With the assistance of Johns Hopkins University, PALS is being expanded as we speak to include a module geared towards the unique experience of returning to work after experiencing some sort of limb loss or limb difference. Our peer support program is one of the tent poles of the Amputee Coalition. Since the pandemic closed the doors to many of the local support groups, we have been able to start offering weekly virtual support groups every Thursday evening. These virtual groups are facilitated by certified support group leaders from across the country and are a great supplement to local groups as they reopen their doors, while also being a bridge to community members who might not have a group locally or who may struggle with transportation. Our certified peer visitor program, also known as the CPV program, is built around the concept that no one is potentially in a better position to understand about living life with an amputation or supporting a person with limb loss or limb difference than someone who has been there themselves. An experienced and well-trained peer can offer encouragement and information from a place and at a pace that an individual in this circumstance of being a new member of our community can best absorb. We are proud to be able to offer one-on-one peer support for anyone living with limb loss or limb difference, those who are considering an amputation or having an amputation surgery pending, youth and pediatric patients, as well as their families and caregivers, veterans, as well as spouses, partners, parents, or other caregivers who are struggling with a loved one's limb loss or limb difference. Thank you so much for your time and attention as we have discussed some of the different resources available through the National Limb Loss Resource Center. If you ever want to reach out to us, remember we are just a phone call away at 888-267-5669, extension 1. We look forward to speaking with you, and we'll be able to open up the floor for questions in just a few moments.
I thank Aaron for his wonderful presentation, and we'll move on to discussing our priorities for 2022. Our priorities for the Amputee Coalition for 2022 is securing funding from the National Limb Loss Resource Center, which offers a variety of resources and information to community members. as well as our second priority is the AAA Study Act. We are very thankful to the Government Accountability Office for agreeing to do our study, and we are excited to see the results of that study. The National Limb Loss Resource Center appropriations. So Congress passed and President Biden signed the funding bill for 2022 budget earlier in March with $4 million for the National Limb Loss Resource Center. The FY23 budget process has already started, and the president's budget was just released on March 28th, asking for a $200,000 increase. We have a new action alert on the National Limb Loss Resource Center funding for you to share your story with your members of Congress. The National Limb Loss Resource Center Action Alert allows you to share your story. It tells your members of Congress how the Resource Center has helped you, explains the challenges of getting care, and asking members of Congress to support our community. You can follow up on the action alert to build a relationship with your member of Congress, and feel free to share the action alerts with your families and friends so they can share their stories as well. We need everyone on this call, along with your personal and professional networks, to join together with us to make progress this year for the limb loss and limb difference community. Our 2022 National Conference is getting ready to start, and starting on August 10th, 2022 and ending August 13th, 2022. Our 2022 National Conference is located in Palm Desert, and we will be hosting it at the JW Marriott Desert Springs Resort and Spa. Registration is still available, and our room block for the hotel is still open. You can use your smartphone to scan the QR code on the screen to take you to the website for more information on the National Conference and how to register. We also have a brand new lead advocate online training to take. We will be hosting a network opportunity at National Conference for the lead advocates. And becoming a lead advocate is as easy as 1, 2, 3. This online training is approximately 90 minutes. And once you take it, you become a lead advocate and join us on our monthly lead advocate calls, as well as this wonderful network opportunity at the 2022 National Conference. To take the training, you may use your smartphone again to scan the link, the QR code on the screen, or go to www.amputee-coalition.org/lead advocate training. I want to open up the floor to any questions that anybody may have. You may feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand and I can call on you so you can ask. Elijah, please ask your question.
Hi, I'm a female to male transgender person, and I've struggled a lot to find support in the amputee community, and was wondering if there were any resources or anything that I could tap into, or I mean, I had my amputation 3 years ago, and I've had some pretty bad experiences. So just curious as if there's any LGBTQIA plus groups or one-on-one support or anything.
We do, as Aaron said, we do offer our certified peer visitor program where we are able to match you with someone. So if you go to our website into the National Limb Loss Resource Center and fill out the request form or call them, they would be able to provide additional information on ways for you to find support, but whether it be with just an individual certified peer visitor or a support group that's located near you.
Well, I have yet to find any other transgendered people, even through, I did that when I first had my amputation, and a straight person called me once and then never called me back, so.
Okay. I'm so sorry for that experience. Send me an email and I will see what I can do to help you make sure you get the support you need. I will put my email in the chat. Do we
Okay.
have, you're absolutely welcome. Is there any other questions? Rex?
I'd like to share an experience with you guys that I had a couple of years ago. I am the director of the Amputee Foundation of Greater Atlanta, which is a peer support group based out of Emory University. I advertise, as it were, our meetings when we are in person, which has been a while. But I like to let people know through various Facebook pages who our guest speakers are and what we're going to be doing. And I always make a point of promoting two Facebook pages that are specific to the gay and lesbian community as well, because we know that in Atlanta, we're the 4th largest gay population in the United States. Our group, according to the woman who founded, has always been inclusive of pretty much everything, which is lovely. That's kind of who we are in Atlanta. We are right here next to Dr. King's birthplace. So that's who we are, and that's who we will continue to be. However, I started receiving phone calls from a concerned individual who will go unnamed, who had been approached by a group because they saw one of our promotions. Oh my God, you're advertising to gay people. Well, yeah, we also advertise to straight people. Are you calling to complain about those ads, or is this purely homophobia? Oh no, it's not homophobia. We're just concerned about this. Well, yeah, that translates to homophobia to me. I was thankful that when I called the next day and spoke to a leader at the coalition, I was told, oh no, we know exactly what you're doing, and we're very happy. We wish that more peer support group leaders would do that. How can we communicate through the coalition's website that our group is inclusive, that we are proudly diverse? I think that there is a description online of our group, but I'd love to add that to the description, because again, Atlanta, we make sure we look out for everybody, and we're not planning on changing that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I would have to speak with our communications team to see how we could present that on the website.
Okay.
So send me an email. I put my email in the chat, and we could talk about that offline to see what we can do. But thank you. We are proud that you are inclusive of everyone, and that's what we want. We represent every member of the limb loss, limb difference community. Any other questions?
Amanda, I'm afraid I don't see your email address. Can you give that to me?
Yes.
While you're doing that, Amanda, I'd also add that through the National Resource Center on LGBTQ plus aging, if any of the state or local coalitions would like to cross promote your resource offerings and support groups, I'm going to also put a link in the chat where you can complete a form, and we can list your information under your state on the National Resource Center's website.
I just sent a message with my email, Rex. Any other questions? All right, I see none. If you have any questions or want to get involved, please email us at advocacy@amputee-coalition.org. If you need other assistance, please contact the National Limb Loss Resource Center. You can use the online form or call us by phone at 888-267-5669, extension 1. Thank you all for joining us tonight for this wonderful call, and we hope to see you at our national conference.